Hello, this is Dan the Furniture Repairman. Today we got a little different repair for you. We're going to repair the bottom of this chair. That's jute, that strapping that's on the bottom that holds these springs in place. And it's old. It's probably 50, 60 years old, and it's given up. It's torn itself out. All the tacks are pulled through, and you can see the springs inside. The fabric on top is good. Our customer had one of her chairs cleaned, and it came out beautiful, so she wants to save the fabric, but we have to fix this part. And we don't want to take the fabric off because it is old. It may not survive going back on. So this is something you can do at home. This is easy to do. So we're going to just start by getting the old stuff out of the way. Now, be careful. It's very easy to scratch and cut yourself. These little tags here, these hold the springs in place. So they're sharp, and you got to pull them off and get them out of your way. After that, I'm going to go through and just pull out these old upholstery tacks and get my edge rail cleaned. Now, you can see the springs right here. One of the ties right up there on the top is broken, so we will tie that back into place. And, you know, these things are kind of crazy looking. We're going to show you how to tame them up and get them working for you. So I like to tie my springs, then put my jute in, and then tie the springs to the jute. It's a little bit more than maybe most people would do, but that's kind of the way I run my business. I go the extra distance. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to put this board across. I'm going to screw it on one side and then the other. I'm not going to compress the springs yet. I'm just going to kind of put it right in place a little above center. I want my center of the springs available so that I can tie them. And then after that, what I'm going to do is compress the springs just like this, and I can move them around that board and line them up. I want them in a nice straight line left to right. And then we're going to tie them top to bottom, and we're going to want a nice straight line this way. But I found this technique. This is something I just did one day. It's like an extra pair of hands. Helps me line them up. And there you go. You see the springs are all nice in a straight line right there. And I could also line them up with the springs above them. Now, I already did a tie on the springs above them. So this is the second one I'm doing right here. So staple your twine down. Now, I'm just using regular twine. It's nothing too fancy. I did double it up just to increase the strength. And what I'm going to do is just go around the center of the first spring and use it. And I want to line it up with the spring right above it. That's really what I'm looking to do, so that I have a nice checkerboard pattern is what I'm looking for. I don't want, springs kind of zigzaggy or anything like that. And then I'm just going to come across the other side. And you can see I'm not quite at the board, and I'm not pulling it super tight. I'm just kind of lining them up and using the spring, and it's something I do in stages. And like I said, if you have an extra pair of hands, maybe somebody could hold these down while you tie them. I think this kind of works pretty well. And now what I'm going to do is just continue across. I'm going to use the twine to pull the springs into line. I want them lined up right across, left to right, but I also want them lined up with the spring above them. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll tie a knot that'll kind of lock one spring in place, and then I'll just loop the next part of it and leave myself some ability to adjust. It all depends on what I'm looking at and how difficult they are. Now, these are in pretty good shape, and they seem to be pretty straight. And as I get to the other side, I'm just going to staple my twine down and then fold it back and staple it some more. After that, I'm just going to take my board out, take the screws out, get my board out of the way, and I'm going to go down to the next one. Now, as I unscrew the board, the springs are going to push back a little bit. They're not going to stay all the way down there. There's some play in that twine, and it's going to eat it up, and that's okay, because you're going to see in the coming steps when we apply and install the jute strap, that's what we're really going to use to pull them down, pull it nice and tight. Now, I have all my left to right ones tied. Now I'm doing my cross one. So this is a four-way tie is kind of what you would call it. And I'm not using the board to compress the springs anymore because I don't need to. They're more or less in place where I want to. And then this is going to lock them up in very good position. So this is going to let me pull my twine through, and you can see as I just kind of loop it around. Nothing too fancy, and it's not hard to do, and it's very hard to get it wrong. So this guy right here, I want to just kind of pull him a little closer to the one next to them and pull them down so they tend to lie flat so that they won't be twisted, because they will work better if they're all lying flat correctly. And then I'm just going to go right across like that, and I'm going to tie a knot right in that spot that'll kind of help it stay there and not move around. And I'll give it a little tug, and there it is. Very, very easy to do. Nothing that should make you worry about whether you can do it or not. Now the next part is we're going to install the jute, and this is another thing I do that's a little bit unique. This is something that I started doing when I started fixing chairs this way, because it tended to make the process a lot easier. So first thing I'm going to do is nail down your jute, a couple rows of staples, 2 rows, maybe 10 staples, 5 on the top, 5 on the bottom, fold it over, and then shoot a bunch more staples. So you can't have too many staples. I'm using 3/4 inch staples. Now you can do this with a hand staple gun, but it's going to be a long day. So if you can get an electric one, get an electric one. If not, rent the compressor or borrow something like that. Now the straps left to right I've left loose, and you can see I left the tail on there, and that's going to come in to play when I pull it tight. The reason why I left them loose is I got to create a basket weave. So if I pull them tight, I'd have to like pull part of the jute underneath the existing piece that's crossing it between the spring, and it's not an easy thing to do, believe me, because I did it. This is called a jute stretcher, and it's probably about 20-30 bucks. You can make something, you can pull it a lot of different ways. I would just get a jute stretcher. You may even be able to rent one someplace or buy one secondhand, but it's definitely a tool you'll want to use or have if you're doing this sort of job, because you can see it just applies a lot of pressure. It compresses those springs and pulls that jute nice and tight. And what I'm going to do is shoot a bunch of staples in, the same thing, 2 rows of staples, really secure it, and now I'm going to whack it with a hammer, a bunch of smacks, really drive them staples home. And then I'm going to take my jute and I'm going to fold it again. And I'm speeding up the video a little bit right here, but you can see a bunch of rows of staples, bunch of whacks with that hammer, and then you're going to just cut off the excess jute. Okay, so don't skimp on the staples and make sure you set it. And here I go. You can see I have a little bit of tape I put on my jute stretcher there so that I don't mar up the upholstery. A lot of times you're doing this on a piece before it's upholstered. We're doing it on a piece that is upholstered, so we have to be mindful of the fabric. And here you go. And as you work, you can see everything's getting pulled down and tighter, and it's going to just keep getting more and more tied and tight and become a nice base for those springs to push against. So now I have right here, you can see I've added a row of jute in here because I wasn't quite happy with the way the one I did landed on the spring, so I just added another piece in. And you could like have the whole bottom solid with jute. Put in as much as you feel comfortable with. There's no real rule. Now I'm doing my cross pieces now, and all I have to do is pull them tight because they're already weaved in. So I pull them tight, and they're going to sit down very easily, but I want to make sure I get them nice and tight there because the springs are going to work off them. And again, 2 rolls of staples, fold it over. 2 more rolls of staple, cut it off. That's about all there is to this. It's simple stuff to do. You know, a little bit of practice maybe it takes with a little bit of how tight to pull it, but it's not hard at all. And then you're going to fold it over, and you're going to shoot a bunch more staples in like that, and then you're going to cut the excess jute off. Now I'm done with that part of it, and it's nice and tight, and you can see it's like a trampoline now. So what I'm going to do now is tie my springs to the jute. And you could do this with a needle and thread, very thick twine, something like that. I tie mine with wire. So what I have is a solid piece of wire right here, and I'm pushing it through. I'm feeling inside, feeling where the spring hits the jute, the outer part, and I'm pushing the wire in. So it's just on the inside part of that spring. And then I'm going to pull it through right here on the corner, and I'm going to twist it. And what that's going to do is tie that spring to that part of the jute, and it's going to keep it from moving it around. Now, I've been told the wire may be a mistake because it can cut the jute, but so far we haven't had any problems. And I do like the way it holds and ties everything together. So it's kind of what I'm sticking with. It's working well for me, but you can go the needle and thread route if you like. And after it's twisted, I just clip it short like that and bend it over. After that, I just have to put my black cambric fabric on the bottom. Nothing too tricky about that. There's plenty of videos out there showing you how to do that. The video on the jute, I wanted to show you. I didn't see a lot of them out there, and I wanted to share that so that some of these chairs maybe get reused or get put back in the world. It's not such a hard repair to do. This has been Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Thank you so much for watching. You have questions, you got comments, put them in the comment section below. If you want to see me do a video on something, put it down there also. We'll see what we can do to get one made for you. If you can remember to like and subscribe, that does help us. You all have a good day.